International had been pleading with Western governments to put pressure on Saddam Hussein. Until the invasion of Kuwait, those pleas went unheeded. Most Western governments were blind to the brutalities of the regime. Torture was torture, but business was business. The exiles, now organized into political parties based mainly in London, feel that sanctions and threats are not enough. What they want is simple. They want Saddam Hussein dead.
Saddam Hussein is the reason behind all evil acts in the Middle East. He is a cancer, and he should be eradicated, should be taken off.
Dr. Abu Ali is a physician, a survivor of Iraqi torture, the London head of the Islamic Dawah Party, and a teacher of the Quran.
To get rid of Saddam, I mean, we have the arms, we have the money, we have the men, we have the intense desire to kill him. We find it difficult to trace him down. We can locate him within 1 mile in Baghdad, but we can't locate his whereabouts and his exact movement.
All these people have been executed in Iraq.
Dr. Sahib al-Hakim was arrested 3 times in Iraq. He survived.
That's my relative, Abdul Amir al-Hakim.
22 members of his immediate and extended family did not.
This boy is my relative, have been executed. 90 of them, 90 of them have been rounded up. That's his cousin. And they disappear in dungeons of Saddam Hussein.
Why? What was the grudge that Saddam Hussein had against you?
He took them as hostages to prevent 3 members of our family who criticize his regime.
Samir al-Khalil is not his real name. He is frightened of revealing it, frightened for his family still in Iraq. His book, Republic of Fear, sold only a few copies when it was published last year. Since Kuwait, it's become a runaway bestseller in Europe. It was just reissued in the United States.
You just don't even dream of talking about certain things, not even in front of you, not to your neighbors, not inside your own family, not even with your own children. This type of fear, which operates inside families, between neighbors, at society, at all levels of society, inside professional associations, at every level, this is what marks Iraqi politics today.
He is visiting schools and houses to show himself as a popular, beloved, and all these things. One day he went to a school. He picked a nice boy and said, "Do you know me?" The child said, "Yes, you are the president of our country, you are Saddam Hussein." Saddam Hussein asked him, "How do you know?" He said, "I saw your picture on the TV when my father was spitting on you." So the bodyguards hear this story, and they capture the father of that child, and they execute him.
Saad Jabr is an Iraqi businessman in London. He is head of the Ummah Party, which describes itself as a democratic movement. These people believe they are favored by the Bush administration to take over once Saddam and his police state are removed.
He's got, for instance, 300,000 secret police on the payroll. And each one of those have got their own people that they contact and so on. So he turned the whole country into a police state, for one thing. And he makes it known. He wants everybody to know that the torture methods and the people are being tortured. That way he puts the fear of God into the others.
Amnesty International mentioned Iraq is the most brutal regime in the world.
These exiles are bitter. Volumes have been written by Amnesty. They have produced names and photographs and details. The Western press and television and governments simply ignored the horror.
Nobody was listening to us at that time.
Saddam is a very well-known enemy of Islam. He has, according to our information, over the last decade or so, he executed more than 35,000 people because of their Islamic activities.
You were imprisoned 3 times.
That's right. They dragged me out of the operating room, and they took me to prison. And they used to tie my hands with a leg and sort of in a squatting position, hung you to the ceiling, and in a fan sort of thing, in the ceiling. And then they start smacking you and hitting you with ropes and sticks. Now, the more difficult one is the electric shock. They use this electric rod in the most sensitive area, like your private part of your body. It's very, very, very painful.
There is no attempt by the regime to hide its sadism. The caption on this photo in a government-approved magazine reads, "Saddam Hussein congratulates man for shooting his son after the boy refused to join the army."
One of my cousins who refused to take part in the war against Iran because he's a religious person. And his father was handed a gun, pistol, and he was asked to shoot him, and he refused to shoot him, and he was shot with his son. Now this has happened not in a solitary confinement or in the prison. No, it was done in a public circle. People were invited by a loudspeaker and came from all over, from the bazaar, from the markets, from everywhere, and they seen this.
Everyone, even members of his inner circle, the Revolutionary Command Council, fears him. In this tape smuggled out of Iraq, a close friend, Al-Hussein Rashid, confesses that he had been a plotter. After the confession, he was taken out and shot. The message was not lost on the gathering. Is anyone in Iraq immune?
No, even the member of the ruling Ba'ath Party, even the ministers are not immune.
In the Iran-Iraq war, when things were going badly for Saddam Hussein, the Iranians were prepared to call a truce if Saddam resigned. He called a cabinet meeting and polled each man, said he wanted an honest answer. "Do not be afraid," he said. They all told him to stay. He pressed them, and finally his Minister of Health, Dr. Hussein, said, "Why not resign, then return in a few months?"
He said, "Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ministry of Health. I appreciate that. You are very brave." And then the meeting was finished. The security forces catch Dr. Hussein and put him in the prison.
The man's wife pleaded with Saddam Hussein's wife, a good friend, to get the president to release her husband. Saddam Hussein himself came to the phone.
The president said, "Shall I send him tomorrow?" He said, "Yes, please." The security forces men came to the house and rang the bell. He said, "Is this house of health minister?" She said, "Yes." They brought a big black bag and gave it to her. She opened the bag. She found her husband had been killed and chopped in pieces. And the security forces men said, "This is the gift from President. Thank you very much." And they go away.
Saddam Hussein's reach is long. One of Dr. El-Hakim's cousins was murdered in the Sudan while attending a religious conference. And here in London, a former Iraqi prime minister was gunned down on the steps of the Intercontinental Hotel. The base of these operations, Iraqi exiles believe, is the embassy of Iraq in Queen's Gate in central London. And despite an agreement with Prime Minister Thatcher that the embassy would not engage in any terror acts, few Iraqis here believe they are safe. Fear of Saddam Hussein goes well beyond the borders of Iraq. Colonel Salim Fukri, an Iraqi army officer who fled to London, an outspoken critic of the regime. He told reporters of Saddam's favorite ways of eliminating people.
The nicest, most peaceful way. They just a little few drops of thallium, and it takes about 3-4 days in certain cases. In some cases, it's just 24 hours when it's finished.
Shortly after, he collapsed and died. Many exiled Iraqis believe he was poisoned. An autopsy did not indicate that, but Abu Ali, who is a physician, says in Baghdad hospital there is an arsenal of poisons developed by East Germany, many of which will not show up in routine lab tests. He says Saddam has poisoned hundreds of people. How has he survived so long?
To be quite honest with you, by the support of the United States of America in particular and the West in general. This man would not have been in this position without the support and the help of the West.
You mean all the signals?
The West has created this monster. The West has created this Frankenstein.
Like most dictators, he is paranoid. His own cabinet often doesn't know his whereabouts. He might sleep in one of his 88 houses or move in on some unsuspecting family, bodyguards and all. There are times of silly opulence, changes in costume, from Tyrolean hats to Persian lamb, from kindly uncle to the Lone Ranger. Has he shown the kind of excess, he and his family, that the Marcoses showed in the Philippines, for example?
By comparison, the Marcoses becomes little bitty angels compared to him. Lately, just maybe about a year ago, Mrs. Saddam Hussein was in Geneva, and she saw the ex-empress of Iran. When she left Mrs. Shah, she had taken with her and bought for $325 million the crown of the late Shah, the crown and that scepter and another piece.
For how much money? How much?
$325 million.
It's very hard, perhaps in the West, to understand how a man like that can continue to function or to govern, even with the intimidation, if he is so unpopular. Because we see these films, for example, on the evening news, of him being received by adoring crowds of people.
All these things are prepared before his arrival. They order all the shop owners to close their shops and come to the street. They push all the students outside the schools to demonstrate. And they, the bodyguards and the security forces men, starting shouting and preparing the banners.
Your group tried to assassinate him, correct?
Right, yes. And sometimes we get the wrong one. And it turned out to be Tariq Aziz, who's a foreign minister. And we injured Tariq Aziz in his hand and his leg.
What people in the United States will find interesting is the man like Tariq Aziz, who seems to be a highly intelligent, well-educated man, that he would show such loyalty to this monster.
Of course, his fate is with Saddam Hussein. That's why he will defend Saddam Hussein to the last drop of his blood. This is one. And the second thing is fear. If Tariq Aziz thinks for 1 second to conspire against Saddam Hussein, Saddam will not only kill him, will kill his family, probably his tribe, and everybody relate to him.
In the most recent attempt on Saddam Hussein, Dr. Abu Ali's group tried to kill him near the city of Basra. President Mubarak of Egypt and King Hussein of Jordan were with him.
But unfortunately, it was discovered, and 4 of our brothers were executed immediately.
But that plan would also have killed Mubarak and King Hussein.
Now, let me tell you, we don't mind to kill thousands of Saddam. I'm quite happy to kill myself, to sacrifice myself, my family, my even tribe, to get rid of Saddam Hussein. So killing a couple of other people with him will not stop us from doing this.